When you summon Deathworlders for aid, the stars flood with war fleets. The galaxy was burning. Star systems that had once shone with life were now silent, their suns flickering weakly through clouds of smoke and debris. The dominion of Xylar had spread like a shadow across the stars, conquering planet after planet. The allied worlds, a fragile coalition of human and alien colonies, had fought as long as they could, but their fleets were shrinking, their defenses failing. Admiral Ethan Collins sat in the command chair of the flagship Liberty, staring at the hollow screen that showed the position of the approaching Xylar fleets. His hands were clenched into fists and his jaw was tight. The ships on the screen moved, like predators, surrounding the last strongholds of the allied worlds. Every day, more human colonies fell. Every day, the Dominion tightened its grip. He looked around the bridge. Officers moved quietly but with tension that filled the room. Lieutenant Maya Thornton was scanning star charts, her fingers moving over the glowing panels. The young woman had joined the fleet only 2 years ago, but she already had the sharp mind of a veteran. She glanced at Ethan, reading the worry on his face. "Admiral," she said softly, "they're closing in faster than expected. The outer colonies won't last another week at this rate." Ethan rubbed his eyes and leaned back. "We don't have a choice, Maya. I've read every report. Every plan we have will fail. Our fleets are smaller, our weapons weaker. If we fight the Dominion head-on, we die." Maya's fingers paused over the console. "Then what do we do?" Ethan's gaze drifted toward the stars outside the viewport. They were beautiful, even in this dark hour, but he didn't see beauty. He saw danger. He saw the deaths of billions. "We do what we were told never to do," he said quietly. "We call them." The officers in the room stiffened. A whisper ran across the bridge. "The Deathworlders?" someone asked. Ethan nodded slowly. "The humans from the dead planets, the ones who survive worlds that would kill the rest of us. We summoned them, and we hope they help us." The Deathworlders were a legend, a story told by scared humans across the galaxy. They were humans who had been forced to live on planets that were too hot, too cold, or too dangerous for ordinary people. Their bodies had adapted. They could survive radiation, toxic air, extreme gravity, and even violent storms that would tear regular ships apart. They were fearless, ruthless, and unpredictable. Many feared them, even the allied worlds. But now, fear had turned into hope. Clara Benson, the fleet scientist, stepped forward. Her face was pale, and her hands trembled slightly as she held a small, glowing device. "Admiral, you don't understand. Summoning them is dangerous. We don't know if they will come for us or for themselves. They don't follow anyone's orders." Ethan's eyes met hers. "Clara, we don't have time to argue. We are out of options. If we don't try, every world we know will be destroyed. Send the signal." Clara hesitated, biting her lip. Finally, she pressed the device to the table. The room filled with a humming light, small pulses traveling outward. Outside the ship, the signal expanded, a brilliant wave that stretched across the darkness of space, reaching toward the unexplored regions. "Coordinates set," Clara said. Her voice was almost a whisper. "We wait now." Ethan leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. He remembered stories of the Deathworlders, tales told in hushed tones on distant worlds. Humans who had survived atomic storms, who had walked through oceans of acid, who had battled predators larger than tanks. They had fought wars on their planets with nothing but their wits, their strength, and their will to survive. And they had won, but now they were far away. He did not know if the signal would reach them, or if they would answer. The stars felt colder than ever. Hours passed. The bridge remained quiet except for the soft hum of the engines and the occasional ping from the navigation console. Maya and Clara stayed close to Ethan, watching the hollow screen. Every small blip of light caused their hearts to jump, thinking it might be the Deathworlders arriving. Finally, a distant point of light appeared on the edge of the system. It was small, almost invisible, but it moved with purpose. The officers leaned forward, their eyes wide. The point grew larger, and then another appeared, and another. Soon the horizon of space was dotted with strange shapes, ships that looked unlike anything the Allied fleet had seen. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "They're here," he said. The ships moved fast, weaving between the asteroids and debris, heading straight toward the Xylar fleet. Unlike the Allied ships, which moved in lines and formations, these ships seemed to flow like water. They struck suddenly, firing weapons that tore through the enemy ships with terrifying precision. Maya could hardly breathe.
Admiral, they're killing them already.
Clara's eyes were wide with a mix of fear and awe. They are humans," she whispered. "But they are not like us. Look at how they fight. Nothing can stop them." Ethan watched as the Deathworlders attacked, and for the first time in years he felt hope. He felt the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy could be saved. The Xylar fleets did not understand what they faced. Their ships fired and missed. Their tactics were useless against humans who moved like shadows, striking from angles that should have been impossible. The Deathworlder ships were smaller, faster, and stronger than anything the Dominion had ever faced. From the command chair, Ethan could see the Xylar Admiral on the holoscreen. He was yelling orders, his face twisted in anger and fear. But no matter what he did, the Deathworlders were already inside his lines, destroying his ships one by one. Maya turned to Ethan, her voice trembling.
Admiral, they're amazing, but are they?
"Can we control them?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "No, we cannot. We are not in charge here. They fight on their own terms. We only hope they want the same thing we do, our survival." Clara stepped forward. "We don't even know their names. They don't answer signals. We don't know who they are or why they fight." Ethan looked out the viewport. The stars were filled with explosions, bright flashes that lit the void like fireflies in the dark. "It does not matter," he said quietly. "They are humans, and humans survive." The first wave of the Deathworlders' attack passed quickly. In its wake, dozens of Xylar ships were destroyed, leaving smoke and debris drifting through space. The Allied officers stared in shock and disbelief. For the first time in weeks, they saw a future where they might live. But Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion was vast, and this one attack would not end the war. The Deathworlders had come, and they were powerful, but the galaxy was still filled with danger. The war was far from over. He turned to Clara and Maya. "We have bought time. That is all. The real test is still ahead." Clara nodded, her hands trembling as she recorded the data. I will study their tactics. Maybe we can learn something from them, maybe—" She trailed off, unsure if she wanted to finish the thought. Maya looked out at the battlefield, her eyes wide. "I don't think anyone can survive what they can do. They are something else." Ethan did not answer. He only watched, silent, as the Deathworlders moved through the stars like shadows of death. They were humans, yes, but not the humans anyone had ever seen. They were something stronger, something sharper, something that had survived the impossible, and now they were here to save a galaxy that had almost given up. And as the Liberty drifted at the edge of the battlefield, Ethan realized that the story of the Deathworlders was only beginning. The galaxy would remember this day forever, and the humans who had been summoned from dead worlds would change everything. The first part of the war was over. The stars had been lit with fire, but hope had returned. And the Deathworlders, silent and unstoppable, were only just beginning their march through the galaxy. The Deathworlders moved through the stars like shadows of a storm. Their ships were strange, sharp-edged, and unlike anything the Allied worlds had seen before. They were human-built, but built for survival in the most deadly places. Their hulls seemed to shimmer with light, reflecting the burning trails of the Dominion's weapons, and yet not one ship had been hit. Commander Lucas Harper led the vanguard. He was tall, with a lean face marked by old scars, eyes that had seen too much, and movements that were quick and precise. He did not wear the uniform of the Allied worlds. Instead, he had a simple black suit lined with silver, designed for survival in harsh environments. He did not wait for orders. He did not follow formations. He only moved forward, and the Xylar forces could not stop him. Ethan Collins watched from the Liberty as Harper's fleet tore through the Dominion ships. Each strike was precise. A cruiser would be ripped apart before it could even fire. Fighters were cut down in swarms as if they were insects. The Deathworlders moved as one, but each acted independently, knowing instinctively where to strike. "They are not like any human I have seen," said Clara Benson, her voice tight with awe. Without leadership, the Xylar forces faltered. Their fleets were fast and numerous, but the Deathworlders were faster, smarter, and stronger. One of the Xylar admirals, a tall figure with scales and sharp teeth, shouted orders in a language no human could understand, but it did no good. His ships were falling like dominoes, and every attack seemed to make the Deathworlders stronger. Back on the Liberty, Ethan turned to his officers. "This is our chance. We can push forward while they do the hard work." Clara shook her head. "We can try, but we must be careful. They do not fight like us. They fight to survive. Their methods are extreme. Some of our people may not live to see this victory." Ethan nodded. "We will take that risk. It's the only way." The battle on Korn the Fourth's surface was fierce. The Xylar soldiers were strong and well-armed, but they were slow and unprepared for the Deathworlders' tactics. Harper's team used the environment itself as a weapon. Toxic clouds were funneled to Xylar positions. Lightning storms were manipulated to strike at the enemy's weak points. Even the gravity of the planet was used to trap and crush the invaders. Every human in Harper's team moved like a shadow, striking, disappearing, and reappearing where least expected. One Xylar squad tried to flank them through a canyon, but they never saw the humans waiting above. A single whistle, a small signal, and hundreds of rocks fell from the cliffs, crushing the enemy soldiers instantly. The few who survived were met with weapons that discharged with deadly precision. The Deathworlders did not pause. They continued their march, leaving no room for the Xylar soldiers to recover. Back in space, the Liberty's crew could see the effect of the Deathworlders' land operations on the larger battle. Xylar forces were distracted, their attention split between the surface and the fleet. Allied ships, once cornered and overwhelmed, now found openings to strike. Ethan gave the orders calmly. "All ships, advance. Follow the gaps the Deathworlders create. Do not engage alone. Move in formation where possible." The fleet responded, moving with cautious hope. For the first time in months, humans had the advantage. Hours passed. The Deathworlders continued their relentless march. Commander Harper's team had captured the Xylar Communications Center on Koran IV, cutting off a key command link for the enemy. They used the Xylar communications against them, sending false orders, turning soldiers against their own leaders. The Dominion was collapsing from within, their own discipline used as a weapon. On the Liberty, Ethan watched the holoscreen showing the battle. His eyes widened as he saw the scale of destruction. Xylar ships were exploding in waves, leaving nothing behind. The Deathworlders did not celebrate. They moved from one target to another, efficient and deadly. Clara turned to Ethan. "They are not here to win glory. They are here to survive. And in doing so, they are saving us." Ethan nodded. "That is exactly what we need." In the middle of the battlefield, Lucas Harper noticed a group of Xylar heavy cruisers attempting to escape. He did not hesitate. His ship, faster than anything else, tore through the formation. The cruisers fired their massive weapons, but the Deathworlder shields absorbed every hit. Harper's crew retaliated with focused blasts that tore the cruisers apart, leaving debris floating in the void. Back on Koran IV, the planet itself seemed to fight with them. Storms that had been deadly to normal humans were turned against the enemy. Lava flows, sharp rock formations, and acid pools became weapons. The Deathworlders used every danger of the planet as part of their strategy. No soldier or machine could survive against them. Maya whispered to Ethan, "They make the impossible seem simple. How do they do it?" Ethan shook his head. "It's not skill alone. It's survival. They have lived through things we cannot imagine. Death is normal for them. They know how to turn danger into strength. Even with their terrifying tactics, the Deathworlders were careful. They avoided unnecessary casualties among the civilians of Karin IV. They fought ruthlessly, but with purpose. Their goal was clear: eliminate the Xylar threat and survive. By nightfall, the battle had shifted. The Xylar forces were in retreat, their fleet scattered, their soldiers either dead or fleeing. Karin IV was free, but in ruins. Fires burned across the landscape, and the air was thick with smoke. Ethan looked out of the Liberty's viewport. This is what humans can do when pushed to the edge. We needed help, and we got the best help possible. But the war? It is far from over. Clara nodded. The Deathworlders have shown us a way, but we must learn quickly. If we are to survive the Dominion, we must think like them, move like them, and fight like them. Maya's voice was soft. And hope like them. Ethan did not answer. He watched the stars, lit with the destruction of battle. The galaxy had changed. Humans who had survived impossible worlds were now the force that could turn the tide of war. The legends had been true, but seeing it in action was something else entirely. And in the shadows, Commander Harper and his team moved silently, ready for the next fight. They did not rest. They did not celebrate. They only prepared for what came next, because in the galaxy, survival was never guaranteed, and the Dominion was not finished yet. But for now, humanity had won a victory thought impossible. And the stars were flooded with the power of humans, who thrived where others would die. The galaxy was changing. Where once the Dominion of Xylar ruled with fear and strength, now doubt and chaos spread among their fleets. The Deathworlders were no longer just a mysterious force. They were the storm that tore through the Dominion. And as the Allied worlds watched, the humans who had survived the deadliest planets moved deeper into enemy territory. Ethan Collins paced the bridge of the Liberty. The holoscreen showed multiple star systems, each with fleets of Xylar ships preparing for battle. But the Deathworlders were already there, attacking with deadly precision. "Admiral," Lieutenant Maya Thornton said, pointing at the display. "They've split into 3 groups. Each one is attacking a different system. They're outnumbered, but they're winning."
Ara Benson shook her head in disbelief. It's not just winning.
They are rewriting what we thought was possible in space combat. They don't fight like humans normally do. They think differently. They survive differently. They win differently. Ethan nodded slowly. "That is what we need to learn." And fast. In the first system, Commander Lucas Harper led his team against a Xylar supply hub. The hub was heavily defended, surrounded by energy shields and dozens of warships. Most humans would have avoided it. But the Deathworlders did not see danger. They saw opportunity. Harper's ship moved silently through the asteroid belt near the planet. Smaller ships followed, almost invisible as they used the shadows of space debris to hide their approach. When they were close, the Deathworlders struck. Harper did not wait for a signal. He acted instantly. The smaller ships zipped between the enemy cruisers, firing precise energy bolts that disabled shields and engines. Larger ships followed, hitting key points that caused explosions across the Xylar hub. Within minutes, the supply station was in ruins. The Xylar admiral on the command holoscreen screamed orders, but no one could respond fast enough. Their ships were too large, too slow, and too predictable. The Deathworlders moved like liquid fire, striking where the enemy least expected it. Meanwhile, on the Liberty, Ethan and his officers watched the attacks unfold. "They are unstoppable," Ethan said quietly. "Every action they take is designed to kill the enemy and survive themselves. They make it look easy, but it is not." Clara studied the holoscreen carefully. "They are using the environment like a weapon. Asteroids, energy fields, gravity, they turn every hazard into an advantage. And yet, they protect the civilians. They do not destroy more than necessary." Maya frowned. "They are dangerous, but they are honorable. In their way, they fight for survival, not for conquest. That is why they can be trusted to save us." Across a galaxy, other groups of Deathworlders were doing the same. On the planet Valtra 2, a team of humans led by Commander Serena Wells landed in the middle of a Xylar city. The city had been built like a fortress with high walls, energy barriers, and automated defenses. Most armies would have hesitated, but Serena's team moved forward. They used the city itself as a weapon. Streets were collapsed, energy generators sabotaged, and traps created that turned the city against the enemy. Xylar soldiers ran into ambushes at every corner. The humans moved fast, silent, and deadly. Within hours, the city was under control. Serena looked at her team. "We leave no survivors unless necessary," she said calmly. "The rest will run. Let them tell their leaders what we did." Her team nodded. This was normal for them. On their home planets, death was everywhere, and only the strongest survived. They did not hesitate. They did not question orders. They acted. And they acted perfectly. Back on the Liberty, Ethan realized that the galaxy was starting to see the Deathworlders as more than a story. Other human colonies were watching the battles, sending messages of hope. For the first time in decades, the idea of freedom was possible again. But not everyone welcomed them. The Dominion was furious. They had fought many wars and thought nothing could stop them. Yet here were humans who did not follow rules, who did not obey tactics, and who could survive anything. The Xylar leadership grew desperate. They began using fear and threats, trying to turn planets against each other. But the humans were too unpredictable. No threat worked on them. In the system of Terran, another group of Deathworlders led by Lieutenant Caleb Brooks faced a massive Xylar fleet. The enemy had over 100 ships, while Caleb's team had only 20. Most commanders would have retreated, but Caleb did not hesitate. He studied the enemy formation and found the weak points. Using fast, small ships, he darted in and out, hitting engines and weapon systems. The Xylar fleet tried to fire back, but their attacks were scattered and wasted. Caleb's ships moved like lightning, striking again and again. Finally, he launched a bold attack. He sent his smallest ship straight into the middle of the fleet, causing a chain reaction. Several enemy ships collided and exploded, and the rest panicked. Within hours, the Dominion fleet was shattered, leaving Caleb's team standing victorious. Back on the Liberty, Ethan turned to his officers. "They are showing us something important," he said. "They are not just fighting. They are teaching us. They are showing what humans can do when pushed to the limit." Clara nodded. "But we have to learn fast. The Dominion is still powerful. They will regroup. The next battles will be even worse." Maya added, "And the Deathworlders, they do not rest. They do not wait. They fight continuously. We need to keep up with them, or we will lose our chance." Ethan looked at the stars. The galaxy was alive with movement. Battles were happening in multiple systems at the same time, and the Deathworlders were always at the center, shaping the outcome. Their presence was changing the war, forcing the Dominion to fight differently, to rethink their tactics. In one remote system, a human team discovered a Xylar experimental weapon. It was designed to destroy entire planets in minutes. Most armies would have been too afraid to approach. But the Deathworlders did not hesitate. They studied the weapon, sabotaged its core, and turned it against the enemy. The planet was saved, and the Dominion lost a key advantage. Ethan watched all of this unfold. "They do not just fight the enemy," he said. "They fight danger itself." They turn death into a tool. That is why they survive. That is why they win. Clara frowned.
It is not just skill.
It is something else: instinct, experience, adaptation. They have lived where we would die. They think differently because they must. That is why we cannot control them. "They are not ours to command." Maya's voice was quiet. "We just have to follow, and hope we learn enough before the Dominion returns." The Liberty moved cautiously with the Allied fleet, observing, learning, and sometimes engaging in smaller battles. The Deathworlders rarely waited for support. They acted alone, with confidence and precision, and every action reshaped the galaxy. In one fierce battle, Commander Harper's team faced a massive Xylar fortress orbiting the planet Draven Prime. The fortress was bristling with weapons, shields, and defenses. Most humans would have fled. Harper's team did not. They used the fortress's own systems against it. Energy conduits were overloaded, turning the fortress into a trap. Enemy ships that tried to intervene were crushed in the chaos. Within hours, the fortress was destroyed, and the Xylar forces scattered. Harper's team moved silently away, leaving the destruction behind without celebration. Back on the Liberty, Ethan shook his head in disbelief. They do not fight for glory. They do not fight for praise. They fight because they must. And that is something we have to understand. Clara added, "We must study them. We must survive like them if we want to end this war. They are showing us the future, whether we like it or not." The stars were filled with fire and smoke as the Deathworlders continued their campaign. Entire fleets of the Dominion were shattered, key planets liberated, and human colonies inspired. But the war was far from over. The Xylar still existed. They were still dangerous, and the humans who had survived the deadliest worlds were only beginning to show what they could do. Ethan realized that the Deathworlders were more than allies. They were teachers, warriors, and legends alive. They were humans who had learned to survive everything, and now they were changing the galaxy forever. The Liberty drifted in space, its crew watching the battles with awe and fear. Maya whispered, "Do you think we can ever be like them?" Ethan did not answer at once. He stared at the stars, at the fires of battle, at the humans who fought without pause. "We will try," he said finally. "We have no choice but to try. The galaxy depends on it." And as the Deathworlders moved from system to system, striking fear into the Dominion, one truth became clear. Humans who had survived death itself could not be stopped. And the stars were alive with the sound of war, fire, and the unstoppable march of the strongest humans the galaxy had ever seen. The galaxy was changing fast. Systems that had once feared the dominion of Xylar now saw hope. Entire fleets that had been thought unstoppable were now scattered wrecks. The humans who had survived impossible worlds, the Deathworlders, were at the heart of every victory, moving like shadows through the stars. Admiral Ethan Collins watched from the bridge of the Liberty. The hollow screen showed multiple systems, each with fires burning where Xylar fleets had been destroyed. He could see the Deathworlders in action, moving from system to system, their attacks precise, brutal, and unstoppable. Clara Benson stood beside him, recording every movement, every strategy. "Admiral, I don't think anyone can stop them. They are not just powerful, they are perfect for this war." Ethan shook his head slowly. "They are humans, Clara, but humans who have survived everything the galaxy could throw at them. That is why they win. That is why the Dominion cannot touch them." Lieutenant Maya Thornton watched the screens in silence. Her eyes followed a small squadron moving through the debris of a destroyed Xylar fleet. "They make it look easy," she said softly. "But I know it isn't. They are fighting all the time, every moment. How do they do it?" Ethan did not answer. He had asked himself the same question every day since the Deathworlders arrived. He had read the stories of humans surviving atomic storms, planets of fire, planets of ice, oceans of acid, and predators larger than tanks. He had seen it with his own eyes now. They did not hesitate. They did not falter. They only acted, and the galaxy followed their path. In the system of Zareth, Commander Lucas Harper led a daring strike against the Dominion's central supply base. The base was enormous, shielded, and bristling with weapons. Most fleets would have avoided it for months, but Harper did not wait. He scanned the area, noting weak points in the shield generators. His small fleet darted in like lightning, weaving through fire and debris. Energy weapons discharged in every direction, but the Deathworlders moved too fast to be hit. One of the Xylar command ships fired a massive beam aimed at Harper's flagship. It missed, but it hit the supply hub instead. Explosions rocked the area, and fire spread across the base. Harper did not hesitate. He ordered his team to focus fire on the shield generators. Within minutes, the shields failed, and the fleet moved in. The Xylar soldiers fought back, but they were slow, predictable, and unprepared for the Deathworlders' tactics. Ships collided, Weapons exploded, and the entire base began to crumble. Harper's team struck fast, leaving nothing of the hub but smoke and wreckage. Back on the Liberty, Ethan could hardly believe what he was seeing. "Every attack is perfect," he said. "They do not just fight the enemy, they destroy fear itself. They show everyone what humans can do." Clara nodded. "And they teach us, too. Watch carefully, Admiral. Every strike, every move, it is a lesson in survival and strategy." The Dominion, meanwhile, was beginning to realize the true danger. Their leaders gathered on the capital ship Xylox Prime, shouting orders that could not be carried out fast enough. Their fleets were scattered, their soldiers confused, and their fear growing. The Xylar had never faced an enemy like this. Humans who survived to death itself could not be defeated by numbers, technology, or tactics. In another system, Commander Serena Wells led her team through a city that had once been heavily fortified. Energy barriers were still active, and automated defenses fired relentlessly. Most armies would have paused. But Serena's team moved as one. They used the environment against the enemy, turning streets, towers, and buildings into traps. Xylar soldiers ran into ambushes at every turn, and automated defenses destroyed themselves in the confusion. By the end of the day, the city was liberated. Fires burned, but the civilians were safe. Serena's team moved on, without waiting for thanks or praise. Survival and victory were enough. Ethan watched in silence, realizing how much the Deathworlders had changed the war. They did not fight for glory or recognition. They fought for survival, and in doing so, they inspired hope across the galaxy. Humans who had once been weak in the eyes of alien empires now held the power to decide the future. But the Dominion was not finished. In the system of Varkon, a massive fleet of Xylar warships attempted to regroup. They had learned from their losses, and they were determined to strike back. But when they arrived, they found the Deathworlders waiting. Lieutenant Caleb Brooks led a strike team in a daring move. His ships moved in unpredictable patterns, weaving through enemy fire. The Xylar fleet tried to form lines and attack, but Caleb's team struck at the weakest points first. Engines, shields, weapons arrays, everything was targeted with precision. The Xylar soldiers panicked. Their ships collided, weapons fired at each other by mistake, and within hours, the fleet was shattered. Caleb's team moved on, leaving the remnants to drift in space. Back on the Liberty, Ethan turned to his officers. "This is what I feared. And what I hoped. The Dominion is strong, but the humans we called are stronger. They will not stop until the galaxy is free." Clara added, "And every system they touch becomes an example. Planets that were afraid now rise up. Colonies that were silent now fight back. The humans show what is possible."
Maya shook her head in disbelief.
"It is hard to believe. One small group of humans is changing everything." "And they are still alive." Ethan smiled faintly. "They survive. That is their greatest weapon. They do not fear death. They turn danger into power. And now, they are teaching us to do the same." In the system of Krydon, Commander Harper faced the Dominion's last attempt to control the outer colonies. Clara smiled faintly. "And the humans, they will disappear again, just like the legends say." "They will leave and the galaxy will remember what they did," Maya added. "They changed everything. They showed us that survival is power, that humans can fight and win, even when the odds are impossible." Ethan nodded. "Yes. And we must remember, the Deathworlders will not be here to fight forever. We have to learn from them. We have to become stronger, faster, better. The galaxy is ours to protect now, because they showed us it is possible." As the fires of battle died down, the stars were filled with wreckage and silence. But hope remained. Humans who had survived impossible worlds had saved the galaxy. And the stories of their bravery and strength spread across every planet, inspiring generations to come. Commander Harper and his team gathered quietly on the Liberty. They did not speak of glory or fame. They had survived, fought, and won. That was enough. Ethan looked at them, feeling awe and gratitude. You came when we needed you most, he said. The galaxy owes you everything. Harper nodded, his eyes cold and sharp, but his voice calm. We fight to survive, that is all. The rest is up to you. And with that, the Deathworlders disappeared, leaving the galaxy to rebuild. The Dominion was broken, but the lessons they had taught would last forever. Humans were no longer weak, no longer prey. They were survivors, warriors, and legends. The stars were quiet again, but the echo of the Deathworlders' march would never fade. The galaxy had been saved by humans who thrived where others died. And that was a power no one could ever challenge again. She was standing next to Maya Thornton, her eyes glued to the hollow screen showing the battle. They don't follow rules. They don't follow orders. They fight like predators, like they own the galaxy.
Maya shook her head. They are terrifying.
But they are saving us. Ethan said nothing. He had known this was possible, but seeing it was different. The Xylar fleet was massive, built to crush worlds and enslave civilizations. But the Deathworlders treated it as if it were a game, moving through the enemy lines with speed and efficiency no one could match. The Liberty's communications officer, a young man named Owen Mills, spoke up. Admiral, one of the Deathworlder ships is approaching the surface of Corin IV. Sensors show extreme radiation in storms. It should be impossible to land, but it's moving down anyway. Ethan leaned forward. Impossible? That is exactly what they do. Let's watch. The ship descended toward the planet. Lightning flashed across the surface. Clouds of acidic gas swirled violently. Xylar defense cannons fired continuously, trying to stop it, but the Deathworlder ship moved through the storm as if it was nothing. It landed, and a team disembarked. The team was human, but taller, stronger, and faster than normal soldiers. Their eyes were sharp, scanning constantly. Weapons in hand, they moved like shadows, invisible until they struck. Those humans! They are built for this, Clara whispered. The storms, the radiation, the heat, nothing can hurt them. They are perfect warriors. Maya's voice was tense. Perfect warriors, or monsters. Ethan's jaw tightened. Both, maybe. But they are fighting for our survival now. That is what matters. Meanwhile, in space, the Deathworlders were cutting a path through the Xylar fleets. Commander Harper's strategy was brutal but effective. He ignored small ships at first, letting them pass, and struck at the command ships directly. The fleet was massive, their ships the strongest remaining in the galaxy. Most humans would have been overwhelmed. But Harper's fleet moved with speed and precision. He divided his forces into small groups, attacking from multiple angles. Enemy weapons fired continuously, but the Deathworlders moved too fast to be hit. They used debris, energy fields, and gravity to trap and destroy the Xylar ships. Within hours, the Dominion fleet was gone, leaving the colonies free. The Liberty's crew watched in awe. They are unstoppable, Ethan said quietly. Every action, every attack. Perfect, Clara nodded. And they do not celebrate. They do not wait. They move on. That is why they survive. That is why they win. Across the galaxy, the Dominion tried to hold on to what remained, but it was too late. Planets that had been occupied for decades now rose up in rebellion, inspired by the victories of the Deathworlders. Soldiers who had once feared the humans now fled or surrendered. Ethan realized that the war had reached a turning point. The Deathworlders were not just fighting. They were teaching humanity, inspiring hope, and showing the galaxy what humans were capable of. In the final battle near the capital of the Dominion, the Deathworlders struck with everything they had. Commander Harper, Commander Wells, Lieutenant Brooks, and other leaders moved together, attacking the heart of Xylar power. The Dominion's defenses were strong, but the humans were stronger. Ships were destroyed, weapons silenced, and soldiers captured or routed. The capital's energy shields failed under precise attacks. The city below was in chaos, and the leaders of the Dominion realized they could not win. They had underestimated humans from Deathworlds, humans who thrived where others would die. On the Liberty, Ethan watched the final moments unfold. "It is over," he whispered. "The Dominion cannot recover. The galaxy is free."